What's up, fossil friends? It's Fossil Dad. I'm in my lab, and today we are going to learn how to resin ammolite gemstones. Okay, so, number one, let's really not panic. So you've done the hard part. You've found the ammolite. You've got the ammolite. You've buffed it. You've cut it. You've done all the parts. You've made it into a gemstone. So now is the time to take our time, really. You know what? Like I say, the hard part is done. So now we want to resin it properly. So this is what I use when I resin. I think the Rio Grande, it's a two-part epoxy professional grade Rio Grande mix. To me, I think this is some of the harder stuff. You can use other epoxies. There's many kind of epoxies out there. More resins, guys, but you know what? More bang for your buck. This, for me, is going to end up a lot harder, and it's going to give you a lot more shine on your ammolite. So I've got a few gemstones. I've got this all set up, so now we're going to go through everything here. So you've got your stone, so that's the first thing. So what you can do is, one method of doing it is you can take your gemstone, you want to attach it to something, because you're going to be taking resin. Now, you're going to be taking a little spatula like this, and you're going to be applying resin to the top of this gemstone. You need to attach it. You want to be able to move it around and whatnot. In order to really learn how to do it, I'd highly recommend starting like this. So we need to attach it. So we're going to take a glue gun. Very easy. You can also use wax. But again, you also have to get this off of your gemstone. So this is the best way to do it. It's a lot cleaner, and we'll show you at the very end what I'm talking about. So you're going to take a little bit of glue, and you're going to put it into the center of your gemstone. Now you want a little bit, but you don't want a lot, but you want enough for it to adhere. And you see how I'm doing that? And I'm taking that extra little bit, and I'm taking that off. You do not want that on your resin. So you want to pull that off there. Now, quickly, you want to take your 3/16 daub, that's what I use, and you want to push that gemstone. Now, you have a few moments while it's still hot. You can move that gemstone, you can make it level. So I've already done that to these guys here. I've pushed them down and made them level. Now I'm going to take them and I'm going to put them in my system. And I'm going to talk about my little resin system here shortly. So let's finish this. Again, a little bit of glue right in the center. Now this is a smaller gemstone, so again, that might even be too much. We're going to find out here shortly. And I'm going to gently press it. You don't have to push hard. If you're gentle enough, what you can do is then you can level it. And obviously you want it to be level, because if it's not level, your resin is just going to fall over. It's going to drip. So, okay, so now you've attached everything. So now you're putting it in your system. Now, again, let's talk systems. This is my simple way of doing it. This is simply a 2x4 that's painted. I've painted it on purpose because that makes it easier for me to clean to mitigate dust. Now, even before I set this up, I've actually wiped all this down to make sure that there's no dust, no particles, nothing. The system is, again, I've drilled holes to the top. And also, when you're making systems like this, you want to drill, but also drill outside to give yourself a little bit of room. Because once you set your daubs in of your gemstones, you're going to want to set them and move them. You're going to want to have the ability to move them to keep them level. And as you can see, I'm turning them right now to make sure that they're flat. And again, I'm going to be doing this again when I'm resining them. So now our system is set, and now temperature. So if you're going to use this resin or any resin, temperature is so important. And as you can see, I'm at 80.2 degrees Fahrenheit. And for you Canucks out there, so I'm at 26.8 degrees Celsius, 27 degrees. So what I'm doing is you need to heat up your room, and if you don't heat up your room, I'll tell you, total nightmare. Your resin will not set. It's going to be incredibly thin, and it's going to spread everywhere. It is going to be a nightmare. You're going to have to soak your pieces, blah, blah, blah. Do not do it. Temperature is so important. And again, this resin needs at least 72 degrees Fahrenheit or 27 degrees, at least 27 degrees Celsius in order to set. Now, that's at 2 hours after you resin it. So you actually have to cook these for at least 2 hours to get a nice hard finish. Okay, so we've got our temperature, we've got our systems. I've got gloves on. Always wear gloves with this with this resin kit from Rio Grande. Always wear gloves. If you get it on your person, you're going to take your gloves off immediately, and you're going to wipe that material off, wash your hands extremely well. Always wear gloves no matter what kind of resin you use. Again, it's just basic safety stuff. Always wear gloves. So now we're going to turn to our resin. Our system's done, our temperature's good, everything is good, we've got our tools out, and now we've got our resin. So this is a 2-to-1 system where it's 2 parts of this to 1 part hardener. So resin, hardener, mix them together. You have to mix them up well. So I've already dumped everything I need in here. 2-to-1 mix. You're going to mix it with a toothpick. The goal is, guys, is not to impart a whole bunch of bubbles into your mix. So I'm going to gently put that toothpick in. I'm going to stay to the outside, and I'm going to start to mix. Now, what you're looking for is not to create a whole bunch of bubbles, but you can also see that white. You see that kind of milky, kind of white, not clear inside the resin. I need to mix that until that clears out. And again, you need to mix it thoroughly. Do not underestimate this step. And in fact, I'm going to also show you a quick step on how to make sure it's mixed even after you stir it. Because sometimes that clear resin with those white streaks through it, sometimes you can't see it. So again, extremely bright light in a sealed room. The reason why it's so hot in this room is because I've sealed it. You need to seal any room that you're working with. Now, as you can see, now I'm starting to impart a few bubbles into my mix. Now, when you have a good temperature, you're going to get less bubbles. The colder your room is, you're going to get way more bubbles. So I'm not really concerned about those bubbles because we're going to use a flame to mitigate them anyway. So again, you want to stay to the outside, inside, and stay to the outside. And again, you know, this is the part where you need to concentrate. Because again, you went to all the trouble, you've got your 65 million year old gemstones, they're ready to go, and if you don't take time for those last steps, guys, it's really going to affect your outcome. It's not going to set, you're going to have to cook it longer, etc., etc. So you can see our temperature is getting a little bit hotter. Again, don't worry about it, you can go at least to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. You're not in danger of cooking it, but that's about as high as you want to go. Now I'm going to check this a little bit more here, a little closer. And now it's a lot clearer. And again, you know, we want this resin to be clear. We want to make sure it's mixed properly. And so to ensure it's mixed properly, you know, until you get really comfortable about reading that product, you can always dump it into another container. By doing that, you're going to ensure that it's going to be mixed. And again, be careful while you do this. You're not going to keep this container. You're going to throw it out. Standard little shot glass kind of a unit, anything, keep it nice and small because again, you're going to throw these away. You're going to get as much resin as you can out of it. Keeping your toothpick over to get any excess. Now you're going to stir it just a little bit more. I think it looks really good though. It's nice and clear. That's what you want. And we're going to get rid of those bubbles here shortly anyway. Now you can also see how fast I'm stirring it too. It's no joke. If you're going to stir like this, then you're going to stir for 10 minutes. Do you guys see what I'm saying? So again, you want to move quickly, and if your temperature is right, don't worry about bubbles so much because we're going to use flame to get rid of them anyway. Okay, so this is coming to an end. My toothpick is done. And now I'm going to make sure that these guys are ready to go. I'm going to check them because I'm going to pull each one of them out. So I'm doing a final check. I want to make sure that there's no more glue, there's no other particles. This is it. Once I put resin on there, this is literally it, guys. So let me get this out of the way. And now when we check our resin, now take a look at the resin. Look at all those bubbles in there. Okay, those are micro bubbles. There's a big difference between, you know, huge bubbles and micro bubbles. Don't worry about those tiny little bubbles that you see there. Worry more about the bubbles on the side. You want to get rid of those because that will, if you don't pop those, that will translate exactly to your gemstone. Okay, so how to get rid of those? I'm taking a barbecue lighter. This long stem keeps that flame away from you. You're going to go in. That's it. Literally, you're just giving it one hit. And now, when I hold this up, you're going to see all of those surface bubbles are gone. You can see those micro bubbles. We don't care about that. You won't see them. Once they're on the gemstone, you simply won't see them. Okay, so ready to start the first round. Okay, and we're going to be doing 3 rounds of this by the time these gemstones are finished. So the first, what you want to do, the first is you want to take your pinky finger and do a very light dab. Very small amount. Now what I'm doing is I'm just putting it around the edge of the gemstone. Now I'm doing this on purpose. I want to seal it all the way around. That's it. We're going to set it to the side. And again, I can't stress enough to you that this is a minuscule amount of resin that I still have a little bit on my finger. I'm going to put a little bit more, very small amount, and any excess that you have, put on top of that gemstone. And you're just spinning it all the way around, using that daub to your advantage, giving it a little spin, taking that off, grabbing another one, doing the same thing. You want to make sure that you're starting that resin on the sides of your stone and all the way around to seal it. The bottom will be sealed as well. Everything will be sealed. It really depends what you're doing with your gemstone. Now you see that? Just a little bit too much. Now I'm not worried about that. Just let it drip off. Again, let's not freak out. Put it to the side. Do not put too much on. Again, you're going to be putting more layers on these gemstones. Less is more, I'm telling you. Never grab this thing and just start pouring. If you do that, you're going to overestimate it, and it will just pour down the sides, on your hands, on your floor, on your jeans, on everything. So do not do it. Again, a little bit on the side, and then all the way around, just on the outside. This is the fun part. I love this part. You know, this is where the gemstone comes out. You've done all that hard work, like I mentioned, and now you're putting this magical liquid on it that is absolutely going to bring it out. So now, let's bring this light over a little bit now. So now, in order to measure how much I'm taking, again, this is where you don't want to use your finger. What I'm doing is I'm dipping that little spatula end into that resin, and I'm pulling it up and letting it drip. That's how I'm controlling it. I'm not using my finger. You need to go out and buy some sort of little spatula like this. You can see that drip that comes off. Now I still have resin left on here. Now I'm going to take that resin and I'm just going to spread it over the entire stone. Now I can turn it as much as I want. And the first coat is done. That's all there is to it. Nice and simple. Now as soon as you're done that, you're going to wipe that excess off. You're going to put that down. Now you're going to take your barbecue flame and any bubbles you have in there, any air pockets you have in there, you're going to see those disappear. A little bit of flame, that's all you need. We're also going to come back to these gemstones with this flame to make sure that if there's any air pockets, that extra little air will show through, and you're going to want to make sure on your first go around that you get those pockets. If you don't, you'll see them pop through tomorrow when your stone is set. So that's it. Now nice and level, I'm putting it back into my system. Now again, easier said than done. And I'm making sure it's level. Now I'm moving on to my next piece. The same idea, one drip. Put that right on the top of your stone. You can flip over your spatula because you're going to spread this around. Spread this around. And again, we're not worried, you know, the first coat, we're not worried so much about the fact that it might not look even. You want to spread it around to all the edges. You've coated the outside of the stone, and now You want to put this down, excess, put this down. Now you see those little bubbles? Watch those bubbles. This is what your flame does. Watch those bubbles. Instantly, the carbon dioxide pulls it from it. Now, you see that? Even though I did it, you still have a little bit more bubble there. Let's give that another little hit. That means that there's an air pocket. So, in between the inclusion of where the gemstone meets that line, sometimes air is stuck underneath there. And while we're buffing it, if it's not buffed far enough, those air pockets definitely will expose themselves. So, better see them now than later. And I can still see a little bubble on top. Now I'm going to take one more tiny little drop of resin. Again, I'm measuring it. And now I'm taking the excess backing. I just have a tiny bit here. And we're going to put one more little drip on that. And again, I can't emphasize enough how little resin I'm actually putting on here, guys. Again, wipe the excess off. We're going to give it one more flame. And again, I'm also using this light, so when you tilt the gemstone, you're going to see, and I used a really bright fluorescent light, any mark on the top of that gemstone through this resin, you're going to see it. And I move it like this, and I take that light, and then when I do that, I can see it's totally smooth, totally clear, no bubbles, good to go. Put it level back into my system, and move on to the next stone. This one is really beautiful. Again, one drop only. Watch. Watch the transformation that these gemstones go through. As soon as it's just like dumping them in water, just absolutely amazing. Now, because you're only putting a thin amount of resin on them, oh, look at that magenta there. Because you're putting a thin amount of resin on them, the resin might pull. And that just simply means that there wasn't enough resin on top of the unit for the resin to actually grab itself and fill all the little holes in the top of the gemstone, because you're actually filling your gemstone with this resin. See that on that little corner there? Am I worried about that? No, because again, we're going to put another layer on this. We can put as many layers as we want on this until we feel that it's done. It's artist's choice. And if you have any excess on the sides, you can just take your glove and just gently remove it, if there is. Now I'm taking a look at it. We're going to flame this one more time, and I can see a little bubble there. I'm going to put a little bit more resin, and again, drop, side, and flip over. And I only use 1/2 of that spatula when I actually put more on. Okay, that down, one more flame. Using the light, I'm rotating it back and forth. Beautiful. Okay, and put that there. And again, making sure that they're level when you're back in your system. Again, sides are done, one drop. And look at this transformation of this gemstone. The kinds of the colors and the designs that come out are just, you know, it's just absolutely second to none. This is Ammolite. This is Alberta's provincial gemstone of our province. And again, I'm using the light. I don't see anything that's a concern. Nice shine. And the good thing about these daubs is you can break them, guys. You can literally crack them as you need to in order to get the right level. And I got one gemstone, so I'm going to turn this. And now let's watch this beautiful gemstone. One drop again. Now, what happens if you have a larger gemstone? Well, again, we're going to use more drops. And again, this is one drop, and you can see it's about half of this gemstone. This gemstone is just under the size of my thumb. I'm going to use one more drop to do the other half and to fill in that gemstone. All the way around. I know I've already got the edges, so you want to make sure the resin goes around. You want to use that daub to turn the gemstone and making sure that no area is left unturned. Excess comes off, and give that flame, get those bubbles coming off. The fluorescent light will also help you see where there's bumps and ridges. Like I said before, not just bubbles, but also on the top of your gemstone. You're going to watch that. You're going to tilt that slightly back and forth. You're going to watch that light show you. This looks great. It's filling in really nice. We'll give it one more flame just for the hell of it. Okay, so now all I need to do now is now I'm coming down and I'm level with these. My eyes are level because I need to turn them to make sure that they are level. And if they're not level, I am breaking them or I'm moving them over to make sure that they're level. And again, keeping in mind that I haven't put so much resin on them that if there's a tiny bit of an angle, we're still going to be okay. So now look at my temperature. We're at 83.5 degrees. Again, let's see for the Canucks out there. So we're at 28.6 degrees in our room. Now I'm done the resin. And now what I'm going to do is now we're going to cook these for 2 hours at this temperature. And after this, we're going to turn everything off in the room, and then we're going to wait for at least 12 to 14 hours before we touch them, come back, and we're going to do another coat, and we're going to run you through that. Okay, so stay tuned. Resin Ammolite 65 million year old Alberta gemstones with Fossil Dad.